Hey gang, Sally here. Hope you're having an amazing and fascinating day. I know I am. I'm sitting here in a Walmart parking lot, so if we get some traffic noise, my apologies up front, because it is finally warm enough to have the door and the windows open. Yay! It's been cold, it's been raining, it's been overcast and cloudy for days. I'm still in Maine, so obviously my travel videos are way behind. But we are getting near the end of September and open enrollment for Medicare starts in October. And I just recently had to go through this situation, so I thought I'd share my Medicare experience with you in the hopes that it might give you some ideas you haven't thought about before and maybe be of some help. As always, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch my videos. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, all the stuff. So we're going to roll the intro and then we'll get right into it. All right, I'm going to start off by telling you what I did initially and what I've done differently just recently. So initially, when I was eligible for Medicare, which has been a few years now, I had been on an HMO plan. This is going to be alphabet soup, by the way. HMO stands for Health Maintenance Organization. And if you're in an HMO plan, you are committed to going to their doctors and facilities, except in the case of an emergency. Okay. So I'd been on an HMO plan with Kaiser Permanente basically since 2000, I think. So quite a long time. And when I was going to be eligible for Medicare, there was a Medicare Advantage plan that was offered through Kaiser, $29 a month, had really great benefits, and I decided that was the way to go. So let's talk about Advantage plans for a minute. And Advantage plans can be either an HMO or a PPO. And PPO stands for Preferred Provider Organization. So in a PPO, you're not committed to just the same doctors and facilities as you would be in an HMO, but there are different tiers if you're in or out of network and all that kind of stuff. And I guess we really need to talk about original Medicare to kind of understand how all this comes together because the whole thing is really confusing for most people. So, original Medicare, Part A, Part B, Part D. Okay. Part A is hospitalization, Part B is medical services. Might have that in the opposite order, actually. Part D is prescription drug coverage. Part C is Medicare Advantage plans. They're relatively new, they haven't been around all that long. And then we've got all these other parts. And the one that we're going to talk about most is what I have ultimately decided to do, which is Part G. And we're going to talk about why and how I got there and how to be able to shop and all those things. And if you get Part G, do you also need a separate Part D? The answer to that, by the way, is yes, you do. So let's just back up. It was really super simple for me to just do the Medicare Advantage plan through Kaiser. I was not yet traveling anywhere near full time. I was going on vacation, so not that big a deal. And for me, I already had a doctor that I really liked. Not that I've got anything wrong with me. Part of the reason I really liked him. Um, and I was familiar with the facilities. And overall, Kaiser's not perfect, but for an HMO, it's pretty daggone good, in my opinion, through my experience. And so I just stuck with it because that was easy to do. And I stuck with it even when I started traveling more and more and more. Here's the problem. Remember what I said about emergency care only. And so that's been my situation since I've been traveling as a nomad all the time. And it hasn't been an issue. I haven't ever needed it. But if I had an emergency, I could go to a hospital, go to an emergency room, and Kaiser would cover it. But the thing that started occurring to me is, what if something happened that required continuing care? And in my case with my plan, if I needed to be seen, if I needed to do ongoing physical therapy or anything like that, in order to have it covered, I would have to be in my region, which is Southern California. And right now I'm in Maine. So kind of far away from Southern California, right? So the very thought of having to get back there presents a potential dilemma. What do you do about care? I mean, if it was something like physical therapy and it was a choice of needing to go from one side of the country to the other to be able to get physical therapy, I would probably elect to just pay out of pocket for that physical therapy because it would cost a whole lot less than the fuel and the effort to get back across the country just for that thing. Does that make sense? But I wasn't thrilled with having to make a choice like that if the option ever came up that it was, going to be an issue for me. Well, and I'd been pushing that for a couple of years now. As you probably know, all of my longtime watchers, this year I sold my house in California, closed on it in June. So, since June, I really don't have anything tying me specifically to California anymore, which means I'm really not eligible for my Advantage plan. So I knew I had to make that change. Now, I'm licensed and registered in Nevada, so that's my domicile at this point. I used to split my time, but now Nevada is just my full-time domicile, and that's fine. I've been licensed in Nevada since 2002 when I started teaching motorcycle safety there. That's another whole long story we won't get into as to why I made that change. So, keeping my domicile in Nevada, well, now I need to be shopping for medical insurance in Nevada. And I started looking at the alternatives, and it became very, very, very confusing. So first of all, I'm going to recommend Jane Bryant Quinn's book, How to Make Your Money Last. I listened to it on Audible, and it gave me a lot of really helpful insights about some financial stuff, including how to handle Medicare, how to do certain things with retirement funds, and one of the things I ended up doing was canceling my life insurance policy. Really don't need it. So why keep paying a premium on something I don't need? Anyway, back to Medicare, back to health insurance. So I needed to go shopping for health insurance. And from Jane Bryant Quinn's book and other things that I had been researching, it occurred to me that a Medicare Advantage plan was no longer in my best interest, even if I wanted to get one in Nevada instead of in California, because I've got that whole limitation around what happens if something happens that requires ongoing care. All I can get on an Advantage plan if I'm not in my region is, emergency care. And as with all HMOs and most PPOs, that's preferred provider organization or health maintenance organization, you are required to get a referral to any kind of specialist. So an ophthalmologist or, an orthopedic surgeon. I need to have a knee replaced at some point. So anything requires a referral to a specialist. So what's the alternative? There are, as I said, there are a number of plans, F, G, N. I think N's no longer available. No, actually, I think F is no longer available. They're all different. If you're interested in exploring all of the alternatives, go to Medicare.gov, and they have a lot of really good explanatory tools. And yes, it will take some time to go through it all. I went through it all because y'all know that's how I am. I'm going to research a subject to death until I completely and thoroughly understand it, or at least to my satisfaction. So, what I ended up doing was deciding to go with a Part G plan. And Part G is a Medigap policy for Original Medicare. Remember, Original Medicare is Part A, Part B, okay? Original Medicare is what comes out of, if you're collecting Social Security, comes out of your Social Security payment automatically. If you're not collecting Social Security, as I am not yet, I have to pay my Medicare premium for Part A and Part B separately every 3 months, separately from my Medicare Advantage plan, which I pay to Kaiser monthly. So the $29 a month goes directly to Kaiser. The $174.10 a month is what it is this year, goes directly to Medicare. And so, split in 2 payments. With a Medigap policy, that's a supplement to Original Medicare. And so this is the thing that's really cool. All of these parts all cover exactly the same thing. So basically you can shop on price, which is pretty cool. And so what I ended up choosing, because there are two different price structures, let me see if I can make this make sense. One price structure is based on the age at which you take the policy, and then increases based on your age as each ensuing year goes by. The other is based on uh, basically averaging the group, that is, using that policy from that particular insurer, and essentially goes up almost like a cost of living adjustment annually. So it's not based on you getting older specifically, it's based on the overall composition of the group, which means it's actually, in my opinion, a more controlled cost increase as time goes by. Now, here's the thing, and I didn't know this before, so this might be the best thing you're going to hear in this whole video. When I originally took a Medicare Advantage plan, I essentially invalidated myself for eligibility for Part G if I were still going to be insured by a Southern California provider. And there are all these convoluted rules about all of this stuff, but basically, once you've chosen Medicare Advantage, you can't go back to a, a high-end Medigap policy without special circumstances. I have special circumstances because I'm no longer a legitimate California resident, so I've moved. And as a result, I have special circumstances that give me a guaranteed acceptance into a Medigap policy for another area. So that's what I'm doing. And there are all kinds of different, Part G policies. And I'm going to be completely transparent about costs because I think it's helpful to do that. The cost that I'm paying and the policy that I chose is a um, Medicare, Medigap Part G supplement policy offered by United Healthcare under AARP. AARP is not administering the plan. Basically, they slapped their name on it. I think United Healthcare pays them some royalties and stuff. But for my purposes, it's a great plan. And it's going to cost me roughly, I think it was $154 a month, in addition to the $174.10 that I'm already paying for regular Part A and Part B. So it's a big jump from the $29 that I was paying to this extra 154. The difference, however, is once I've got it, as long as I keep it, I can't lose it. They can't ever kick me out. As long as I keep paying, they can't kick me out. So now I've got it. And basically all it can cost me out of pocket is the $250 Part B deductible. And all other medical services are included. Now, there are a few limitations. There are limitations for things like, I think, a hospital stay in excess of a year. Then you're on your own. You got to actually pay for it. And there's some long-term care exceptions and so forth. And ideally, one would have a long-term care policy. I don't. I'm not going to bother buying one now. I think it'll, well, I say that. I think it'll be too expensive. It probably is too expensive for me to want to, to dig deep for that. But I'm pretty confident in my overall health that I'm not going to have something go wrong that's going to put me in the hospital for a year. That's what I'm hoping. Everything's a little bit of a gamble, guys. You can't offset that. Now, let's back up to my $29 a month Medicare Advantage plan. Well, that includes drug coverage. Now, there is a deductible for drug coverage. I don't even remember what it is. I think it might be $500. The only medication that I have prescribed is an EpiPen because I'm allergic to a whole bunch of things, including bees and stuff like that. So I have an EpiPen, but I don't have any other prescriptions for anything. So I have never been terribly concerned about having excellent drug coverage. But by dumping my Advantage plan and moving to Part G, well, now I've got no drug coverage. So we're not done shopping yet. I had to go back and shop for a Part D plan. And again, with all of the Medicare supplemental plans, Part D, Part G, whatever, all you're doing is shopping on price. So there are certain plans. The one that I chose is under $13 a month. And I checked, for my epinephrine prescription, my EpiPen prescription. And essentially, I think it's like $7. So not a big deal. Um, I can't remember if there's a deductible or not, but they have a whole formulary of, what you'll pay for particular drugs, and all of the companies do, by the way. So if you've got different medications, you do want to shop drug plans fairly comprehensively to make sure that whatever it is that you're taking, you can get for the least amount of money possible. I understand that there is supposed to be a bill going through effective in 2025 that's going to limit total out-of-pocket drug costs to $2,000 a year for people. I think just for people on Medicare, might be for everybody, I'm not sure. But, still $2,000 is a lot of money. And I'm just really grateful that I don't need any medications for any kind of conditions or anything. Coming back down to it, I switched from a Medicare Advantage plan, which by the way is Part C. So I had Part A, Part B, Part C, and my Part C also included Part D, which is drug coverage. So we're dumping Part C and we're adding Part D for drug coverage and Part G for a gap policy for all of my medical needs. So when you're looking at the drug plans, as I said, you want to check drug prices for the things that you're using specifically, and then make the judgment as to which drug plan is going to be best for you. The one that I chose is not rated very highly. It's rated 3 out of 5 stars on the Medicare star scale, based on people's experiences and stuff. But my guess is that that's based on people that actually have a need for medication, and I don't have that need. So I want to pay the least amount of money that I possibly can, and we'll see whether or not that backfires. Anyway, I thought that this might be helpful since we are coming up to open enrollment. And if you're one of those people that's just, coming up to 65 and this is something you're going to need to be shopping for, you might want to consider whether or not a Medicare Advantage plan is really the way that you want to go. I had no idea when I did this that it could have potentially removed choices later down the line. So I think that's a really important point. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hope you got something out of this. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know how things are going for you, and we'll see you next time.